Wedding photography. Let's just jump into it. Here's my top tip. Whether it's your first wedding, your 10th wedding, your 20th wedding, there's still things you're going to look to improve. Now, these tips are assuming that you know your camera inside out. You've been to a few weddings before, you've maybe had a chance to second shoot for someone. One of the first things I say to everyone is, if you can and you're unsure with where you are in the world of weddings, is take a second shooter. The amount of help you'll get just from bouncing ideas off of someone, and the fact that they can get extra shots as backup, is a great thing to have. So if you know someone, even if they're just starting out themselves, it's great to take a second shooter with you. So a few simple things just to start with. Learn the itinerary, learn who the bridal party are and who is important to the bride and groom. Parents, grandparents, special friends, not just the bridal party, there can be some other key family members, and you want to make sure you know who they are, and it helps to know their names, and that's something that I'll come back to a little bit later, and it helps just steady everyone, especially when it gets to formal photo time and the real crunch part of the day. Now, no matter how good your memory is, write down a shot list of all the key images that you want to take on the day. You'll be surprised, just little things like shots of the rings, shots of the flowers, headshots of the bridesmaids when you're doing the formal photos. All these little shots can get missed, and these are images that the couple will hold dear. So it's always good. You're never going to get absolutely everything, but if you've got a shot list and you've ticked it off, there are certain points throughout the day you can go back, look at the list and go, I missed that one, let's go and quickly do it now. And it's things that you can really do to make sure you're getting all these images for every couple. Formal photographs. Don't go mad on the formal photographs. I don't really know any photographer that enjoys the formal, staged, everyone stood up straight, looking nice and smiley, formal photographs. One or two is fine, but by the time you've done a dozen, that can sometimes take 20 minutes and everyone's starting to get a little bit bored. So always mention this to your couple before the day. Tell them, don't go mad on it. Tell them it takes you 3 to 5 minutes for each image to set it up, which it sometimes can do if there are a lot of guests. And you will find that they start to realise if they want 20, 30 photos that it could take over an hour, and they won't want to take that out of the itinerary and out of that part of the day. Location. Scout the location as best as you can. Once you've gotten to know a few of the venues you visit regularly, that's fine, but especially if it's your first time at the venue, scout it out, even if you have to go on a separate day, or at least get there early. If it's varied and they're getting ready at one spot, then they're going to a church for the ceremony and then they're going on to a reception somewhere else, it can be difficult. Most churches are very similar, and if you arrive on time at the church, you can speak to the vicar or priest. They'll tell you where you can stand most of the time. It's very rare you've got a free roam, so you're always going to be limited on the day. So if you can check it out beforehand, that's great, and especially with the venue, just to check out the grounds, but also wet weather contingency. If it does start to rain, or if there's any bad weather and you're stuck indoors, make sure you scout out a few other possibilities just to get those nice romantic shots with the couple. Manage expectations. This is something I try and tell everyone who works with me. Over the last 12 to 15 years I've been working for weddings, and something that I picked up on very early on was to manage the couple's expectations. Always under promise and over deliver. So if you know your package is going to deliver 500 images, tell them they'll get 300 to 400 images. When you deliver 500, they will be happy. They don't always expect 1,000 images, and there have been occasions where I've delivered 700, 800, 900, even 1,000 images, and they're always ecstatic. Make sure that you tell them and make them aware that you can never guarantee to get every single shot they want, but do ask them the key shots that are important to them and make sure you tick those off especially. So 2 cameras. When it comes to the actual cameras you're going to use, I cannot recommend enough having 2 camera bodies at the very least. You'll find it makes you move much quicker and faster throughout the day. And obviously if you're using different lenses, you can have 2 cameras on you at all times without having to switch the lenses over. You can crack on and get the shots you want. Generally, a medium to wide lens and a portrait lens of some sort will allow you to quickly whip between the 2, especially during the ceremony or speeches or any key moments where you can't really make a fuss or tell anyone to wait. That actually leads me on to equipment, making sure you have enough equipment and accessories. So it's not just about the camera. If one of your cameras failed, you have 2 cameras, there's no issue, you can carry on. It'll be a little bit tougher than maybe what you're used to, but it helps, it always helps. If you haven't got enough batteries or enough memory cards, then you're going to have an even bigger problem. Make sure you've got spares all the time. That's actually reminded me of something that genuinely happened only a couple of years ago. I was just doing the wedding video because they had a family friend or someone they knew for quite a long time that ran a studio and did baby portraits, and they were getting them to do the photography. Now they turned up with a budget crop sensor camera, no issue. I started out with a budget crop sensor camera, but they turned up with one kit zoom lens, which would have limited their creativity somewhat, and one battery. I am not kidding you, they turned up during the ceremony and was telling me how panicked they were that their battery was going to fail during the ceremony. It didn't, it lasted for the ceremony, but literally they walked back down the aisle, went to have their formal photos, and this photographer unfortunately ran off very upset, wasn't able to continue, and disappeared, actually disappeared. Don't be that photographer. Luckily for them, I had my photography gear in the car. I came back and took a few formal photos and some romantic photos. It took about half an hour out of the time that I would have used to create the video, but in the end it didn't affect it too much, and we were able to get everything. The photographer did come back, by the way, not until they sat down for their meal. That was an interesting one. When using your cameras in general, I do still shoot RAW, and I tell everyone that I meet you should really shoot RAW. If in a professional environment for weddings, there's no real excuses for it. You should be nailing your focus and your exposure as much as possible, but there are times when shooting RAW just gives you that little bit of leeway, and it really does help out. Be bold. That's one thing I like to tell everyone. Be bold. Get out there. Be creative. Not so much get in their face, especially during the ceremony, but just throughout the day, be bold. Put yourself in positions you wouldn't normally go in to get that shot. You will thank yourself later, and if you are the official photographer walking around with a big camera, no one's going to blink twice looking at you if you walk down the aisle as they're walking up. As long as you're taking note of your surroundings, if you're working with a videographer, making sure that you're both getting the shot. Always liaise with the videographer if you have got one, let them know what you're planning to do. But do be bold. As a photographer, I expect the photographer to take lead. If I'm working video, I'm not going to be the one that's going to direct them. I generally let the photographer do that, because with video you can capture it a lot more naturally anyway. Don't be afraid to speak up, use your voice. Nobody knows what you normally sound like, nobody cares what you sound like. As long as you are authoritative and you know you're running the key parts of the day to get those shots, the couple will be ever thankful. So anyone can point and shoot and just take an image. Even with a nice lens, you can get a nice photograph. But I always like to change the perspective. Get down low, get up high. Look for these options and positions you can get in to make it a little bit more creative and just change the look of the image, because you don't want people stood next to you with the latest iPhone 11 Pro taking lovely photos that may not look too dissimilar to what you're getting. Clients won't see the extreme detail and the perfect bokeh that your camera can produce, but they will see your creativity. So change your perspective. Just on every wedding, try something new. Now personally, I do enjoy off-camera flash, but not just off-camera flash, flash in general. Sometimes it's too dark, and I do actually love this little V50, what's this called? And I do actually love this little Godox flash, the V350 S for Sony. This one comes with a rechargeable battery. It's small, it's light, it suits the Sony camera system really well, the mirrorless camera system. And just teach yourself even the basics of bouncing flash. If you've got a simple white ceiling, you can point the flash straight up, bounce it around, and just help with the lighting. It actually gives a nice pleasing result. It's not that creative, but again, just investing in a flash like this will make all the difference. Your images will be much more improved if you can just learn how to bounce a flash around. Moving on to that, if you then go down the route of off-camera flash, you can use these, but when you go into evening or winter time, you'll find that you've got to learn a little bit of flash. It's quite simple, and in fact I've got a few videos up when I'm reviewing the Godox AD200 with the round head and on its own, and I tend to light from behind, and you can get some really stunning creative shots without too much that you have to learn. Expect shit to go wrong. It always does. I cannot tell you a wedding where everything has gone absolutely perfect and smooth. That doesn't really happen. I mean, sometimes it comes down to just things running late, and that's actually one of the biggest things as a wedding photographer you have to deal with, is time management. Getting the shots you want to get, but also making sure the couple are enjoying their day. Don't get flustered. Enjoy it. Make sure the couple never see you get flustered, angry, anything else that might be happening. Things go wrong, accept it, deal with it. That's what they're paying you for. And my final tip, the most important tip, the one thing that I tell everyone you must do at every wedding: have fun. Have fun with the couple, have fun yourself. You will enjoy it a hell of a lot more. Once you've gotten over the initial scariness of actually shooting weddings for the first time, you'll find that you will have fun with it. If you're not having fun, stop, don't do weddings. But if you do have fun, your couples will have fun, their guests and their friends will have fun. I think you do need to have a good personality, you do need to be commanding on the day, but also have a good sense of humour. One of the best photographers I know is probably the funniest photographer. He says a few risque jokes, he takes the mick out of the couples, he can read the situation and know whether that would fly. Sometimes it's not the right couple, it's not the right family, but generally, everyone wants to have fun. They want to enjoy their day. And I'm telling you now, if you can produce great photos, but also have a lot of fun, you will get recommendations. And the amount of work I get just from other couples seeing me at their friend's wedding day, I think that's probably makes up half my business, if I'm honest. I've got a wedding tomorrow that is a recommendation from a couple whose wedding I shot last year. They just loved the fun that we had on the day and the images that I produced, and that was it. They didn't really ask about prices. I'm not the most expensive photographer, but I am not cheap by any means. They didn't care. They wanted to book us for a photo and video, and they've gone ahead and done that. You'll find if you're having fun, your business will grow really quickly. So thanks again for watching, guys. Please do like and subscribe. If you like this and you like the tips, I might do a few more tips and a little bit more in-depth tricks and tips and things that I've learned over the years. As always, I'm Matt from Roto, and I will catch you in the next one.